Hi, and welcome to the Supermom podcast. The episode today is for busy moms and dads who are struggling with keeping calm when you're running late. And yelling at your kids is the only option, and you hate that. So even though it might be the only way how to make your kids move faster and get out of the house on time, you're desperately trying and doing your best to find a way how you could have nicer, calmer, happier mornings and your kids, how to make them cooperate more naturally. What this episode is not going to be about is giving you some parenting tricks, scripts, or routines. Because if it was that easy, you would have already figured it out. The internet is full of these things. It's not it. So how come there are moms around the world who have 3-4 kids, no support network, they are expatriates with nobody else to help around, with crazy hormones, kids with ADHD? What are they doing differently? How come they can make their kids listen without having to yell? And this is not to blame or shame you. There's nothing wrong with you. It's not that you're not good enough. You are trying very hard, right? But there's something that they are doing differently. So what is it? And could it maybe work for you too? Well, let's have a look at that together, shall we? Hi, I'm Elena, and I call myself a mommy tantrum specialist because I used to be a specialist at yelling at my daughter. And the time pressure was one of the biggest triggers for me, as I also hear from all the moms that I work with. Now, for me, it was even worse because I have only one daughter. I started yelling at her already when she was about 1 year old. And the challenge was, I realized I was yelling at her not only when there was real time pressure and real deadline or timeline that I had to stick to, but I was getting nervous also when it was, for example, a weekend and there was nowhere to go on time. I was still getting upset whenever she was moving too slow and she was not responding, she was not cooperating. She was either ignoring me, making jokes, being silly, or on the contrary, she was whining and asking for my attention while I had other things to do and other places to go. And so all of those were situations when I couldn't help myself. I felt the anger. I was doing my best to be a nice mom, keep it together because I did not want to yell at her. But it was piling up. And then when the time pressure came on top, it just all exploded at her. And of course, it made everything even worse because then she was even slower than before. Then I had to spend the time to calm her down because I didn't want to walk out to the street with like a total mess of a baby and total mess of a me because I started crying and feeling emotional as well. So it was like a total peep show, total disaster. So I did everything that most of the moms come talk to me, what they tell me they are trying. All those parenting scripts, kind of like manipulation techniques, how to make the kids listen, how to do it the nice way, how to bribe them, how to positively reward them. And then when that doesn't work, then okay, punishments, consequences, boundaries, and yelling as the last resort. And the internet is full of all of these things. So how come there are still parents who are lost? And more than ever, I would say. There are even more parents and it's even more desperate, the situation. So how come? How come we are not getting these answers? And what are we not getting? So from my own example, what I realized was I was making several wrong assumptions. And see, maybe, like if that relates to you, maybe not. I'm just going to put all of my dirty laundry out there and share because hopefully that's going to help somebody see as well. The biggest mistakes I used to make, I felt like it was my daughter's fault. Like, how come I'm giving her so much of my time and attention and I'm being so much nicer than my mom? I'm trying my absolute best not to yell, not to stress out, not to be too pushy, too controlling, too perfectionist to her. And yet it's still not helping. She's still not cooperating. Even for the littlest things, like how come she cannot get that done on time? This is the only thing I'm asking. How come it's so much to ask from you, right? So I blame it on her in a way. Like, what the heck is wrong with her? How come she's not hearing me? I blamed it on my husband. How come he's not around? I blame it on us being expatriates, not having any support network, nobody else to help me out. I blame it on me being burned out. That Indeed, like the society puts so much pressure on moms to be so perfect with the kids, with the husband, at work, or even more if you're trying to set up your own business and run a business, in all the spare time and the few pockets of time you have in between doing everything else, while looking gorgeous, while always being zen. Like, what the heck? This is like putting the bar so high up so that whenever we fail in any of these areas, whenever we are not 100% perfect in any of these areas we are supposed to master magnificently, then we beat ourselves down. And I was super burned out, exhausted, running on little to no sleep. So all of this was like falling heavy on me. And so of course then when we had to get somewhere on time and my daughter was not helping, I was already on the edge. So I blamed it on that as well. And even though I tried all of these super parenting techniques that made absolute sense, it was like logical, duh. Of course it should work like this. This theory is awesome. Trying to remember, trying to like memorize all those scripts and what to say when to make the kids cooperate, and trying to become the puppet master so that my daughter would just like go through it with me. None of that was working. So then I was blaming myself for being stupid. Like, yeah, there must be something wrong with me, right? If all of these parenting techniques work for other parents, not for me and my child, so then there's something wrong with us because I keep trying and it's not working. So what the heck? Only when I realized that all of this is BS, none of that is actually true, and there's something very different going on underneath, only then actually I started making progress. So why is it that not true that it was about my daughter? Why is it most likely not true that it's not your kids' fault? They are not there to get you, unless they're already grown-up teenagers or adults, and then yes, maybe they're doing it to get to you. Maybe they're doing it on purpose to manipulate you. Then we need to have a different discussion. But if we are talking about kids younger than 10, 12, 13, then it's not usually that they are out there to get you, that they are so mean and that they want to hurt you this way. Usually that's not the case. It's only that because we are so stressed out. I know I was so stressed out, burned out, so afraid of being judged by other people if we were running late, so afraid of the consequences and catastrophizing the scenarios of what would happen if we ran late, that I was putting that on that relationship. And that's what made me flip. Yeah. So it was not even my daughter stuff. It was in my head about all of these things that are going to go wrong, and me judging my daughter, not seeing what was going on with her, because I was so busy in my head with that black cloud of stress and time pressure. I was not really there to be able to see what is going on with her. Is it that she needed to finish the last page on her book? Is it that she needed a little more time because she was so busy practicing on how to put on the shoes? Is it that she needed one more hug because she was just sad to go to daycare? Is it that she needed a little, like 1 more minute to put up the coat because she wanted to do it herself, right? Because those are all completely normal developmental stages. Kids learn how to say no when they are about the age of 2. That's why they call it terrible twos, because kids start saying no all the time. And again, that's not personal. That's just part of their development. Around the age of 3 or 4, it's completely normal for them to start pushing to do everything by themselves and for them to want to have control over their choices. And as much of like pressure and perfectionist control you put over them, the more they will be pushing back, okay? But I was not able to see any of that because I was too wrapped up in my own schedule, having the to-do list and having that fear of judgment and having all that pressure on myself. I understood all of this about my daughter, but I was like, what the heck? How difficult is it? Like, please, can we just like put on your coat, put on your shoes? Can we talk about it later? Can we hug it out later? Is it so difficult? I could not have the patience for her because I didn't have it for myself. Okay. The second biggest aha moment was for me when I realized this is not just about my daughter. This is not just about the situation right there when it already goes wrong, when we are already late. It's about all that time, what precedes, what happens before, how I set it up in a way that is not helpful. And that's talking about all of that busy schedule, all of those perfectionist requirements from myself, all of that self-created pressure I was putting on myself because otherwise I would not feel good enough. I grew up, little side note to explain more, and you check what's true, what rings a bell from your childhood. I grew up being rewarded and appreciated, validated for being a hyperachiever. So always doing more, trying to do faster, better, which is like, yeah, that's normal. Every parent wants their kids to grow up well, right? The problem is that there was a checklist of things I had to do better and faster. And only then I was getting the appreciation and validation. Not just for being messy me, having all of the emotions, but the checks on my parents' checklist were hyperachiever, so doing better faster, people pleaser, not caring about my emotions, but always being sunny, shiny, happy, always being helpful and saying yes, even before people asked. That was very much rewarded. Never being lazy, never being angry, never being sad, always being the nice, helping, good girl. Always being on time. As soon as I could read like the clock, I got my wristwatch. Of course, I was so proud. And from there on, there was pressure on me to be on time for my piano classes, for school, me watching over my little brother so that he's on time, right? Always the comparisons with other kids and other family members, like how they do. There was a long checklist of what I had to be, what I had to turn to in order to be rewarded by my parents. So then, no wonder, then I grew up still having that checklist in my head. Not realizing that, yes, I'm an adult. I'm not doing this to please my parents, even though, yes, every time I would call my dad, I would kind of like show him how great I'm doing so that he would say like, yeah, you're a good mom. I'm so proud, la da 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 da, right? Even as the adult looking for the validation of my father. And then everybody else as well, all the colleagues, my husband. I felt like I could never sit down on a sofa in the afternoon because I knew at what time he was coming back from work. And I felt if he would find me sitting on a sofa at home, reading a book or doing anything for myself, I would feel ashamed. I would feel like I'm a lazy and I just got caught, and that's not a good thing. So you see, all of these things, all of this was actually setting me up for the trouble. And I didn't realize it before I had my daughter, because that was kind of normal. That was my life. I felt like everybody has it. And those who don't, then they are lazy and they deserve to feel ashamed. Like my brother, I was judging him so much because he was the exact opposite. Super lazy, even though we came from the same parents, right? You would have thought like we should have turned out the same way. But if you had more than one kid, you know that they can be exact opposites, right? Even though you give them the same approach, the same parenting, the same love, the same circumstances, they turn out very different way. Because this is one of the things that I keep saying to my clients. It's not about what happened to you. It's about what you made it mean. My brother was born second. The good kid place was already taken. I was a little bit older, so I was faster, smarter, better in all of these things that he was just learning naturally because he was younger, right? So he just made a decision. Well, the good kid's place is taken, so no point in me trying because no matter how hard I try, she's always better. So he flipped to the other extreme and he was the rebel boy. So for me, I was judging him as the lazy guy, the one who doesn't care, the one who is not the people pleaser. So on the opposite, he was the spoiled kid that, especially then with the gender balance, I was the girl, so I was supposed to help in the kitchen and help cleaning. He didn't have to do any of these things because he's a boy. So you add up all of this, right? And that's how I grew up. This is what was happening even before I became a mom. But I could manage it because the responsibility was on me. I was the one with the wristwatch. I was the one who could read it. I was the one who could make sure that I will be on time and I will do everything I'm expected to do so that I can allow myself to feel good enough, at least for a bit, before the next time pressure comes. Now that all went out of the window when I had my daughter. Because now my life was depending, my time schedule was depending on this highly unpredictable, highly emotional, little human being that I felt so much love for, that I would give my life for. I thought I was going to die actually during my birth, but I would give my life for her. And yet she was like completely driving me crazy, because she was the main, like the key determinant for my schedule and if I'm going to be on time or not. Like, how out of control, helpless, not respected, not heard, not appreciated. Because before, all of these people, they were appreciating me for being the hyperachiever, perfectionist controller. She didn't give a damn. She kept asking for more. For her, that was never enough. So this was the thing that was actually that was setting me up for the challenges. You can imagine, not just during the time pressure, but overall, okay? But this is what I had to clean up, okay? Because it starts there. It starts inside here. Only after you clean that up, because that's what I found out for me, only after I cleaned it up, that hyperachieving perfectionist controller who was never feeling good enough. I never felt enough, not for more than 2-3 seconds. Even after I achieved something amazing, I got new certification, new job, I was promoted, I was sent to China for expatriate assignment, like the youngest kid on the block, the youngest person on the leadership team, where all of the people were 15, 20 years older than me. I allowed myself to celebrate for like 3-5 seconds. And then I realized, okay, now there's even bigger mountain to climb, even bigger expectations, even bigger pressure to perform, right? All of that, I had to clean all of that up. And the reason why I kept feeling it, even when I was already an adult, there was no parent like shaming, blaming, or like telling me what to do. I was still carrying around those voices in my head. All of that had to be cleaned up. That was the first big part of my journey. And then the second big piece of what helped me finally go into like a Zen mom mode, perfectly imperfect, was the part that I had to work with the little me inside me. Sometimes they call it inner child. So there's like, again, internet is full of these things. For me, the key concept, it's not even concept, I started feeling it. I realized in the moment when it flips, I'm being the adult, I'm trying to be the patient, calm, nice adult, and then flip. When it flipped into my overreaction, when my big emotions, all of that anger and frustration and resentment, all of that bursted out, I realized in that moment I flipped into being a kid myself, being the 3-4-year-old out of control. And what is the only way that a 3-4-year-old feels how they can protect themselves if things are not going their way is by yelling. Did I ever yell at my parents? Like, for sure, no way. That's not an option. But did I feel free to yell at my little, like, baby toddler girl? Of course, yes. There was no possible risk coming from her. Of course, I felt like it's so big, I have to yell it out. So that's the flip. I started being interested in what happens in that moment when I flip from being the adult to being the child. And how the heck can I stop it? Because I want to be the mature, reasonable, safe adult so that my daughter doesn't have to be scared of this moment when I flip and start being the yelling monster, right? So that's when I started digging and working with that part of me that was jumping up, like the kid in me that was jumping out, okay? So these are the 2 points I wanted to bring to you. Because I tested it not only on myself, like me and my one kid and having a husband. I know there are moms who have it so much worse, okay? They have 3-4 kids. There is no husband. They are divorced, separated. There was even like toxic, abusive relationship they had to run away from. Moms with super crazy hormones, kids with ADHD. Even name it, like give me a challenge and I'm going to tell you if we worked with that kind of mom or not. Dads included as well. For them, there's a different generational pattern as well going on, but the basics is the same. It's always these 2 parts. How do you set yourself up for a failure, basically, already up front, by filling in your schedule, by trying to be the good girl, by killing yourself over just getting the approval of and validation of others, never allowing yourself to rest or even create a space on your calendar, because if you would do that, you would fill it in with something right back in. It's self-induced stress and pressure to a large extent. You don't have the confidence and ability to step up and say like, no, society, family, like everybody having expectations and pressures and judgment and criticizing me, I could not care less, please. You don't have that confidence and ability to just like shield yourself off of that pressure and calm yourself, like finding what your priorities are. This is what I realized only later on. And this is, by the way, why I kept my head shaved for 3 years in a buzz cut, because that was like the time when I wanted to test it really. How strong am I that I can shield off all of this nonsense, the fear of judgment, the pressure that other people are putting in me, so that I can work with what is really the priority, what is the non-negotiable? Because when I was able to do that, I realized, well, there is only a little on that list. And in terms of the time requirements, and those are the priorities, then I will focus on. But all the rest was the pressure that was like from the outside, I put it inside, and that's what I thought, well, those are the requirements, and they were not. Okay. So that was the first part. And that's what I found out is working with other moms who have much more difficult situations than me. It works for them too. Going to the roots of those voices in your head that are creating your schedule, that are creating the pressure. And only then we were able to look at, okay, so what's really going on with our kids? How come they are not listening? And how can we support them? Okay. Now with all of this useless stuff, like trying to prove we are not good enough, now that's out of the way, helping them to stop flipping from being the adult, flipping to being the kid out of control, and instead staying in the adult, like safe space, no emotional outbursts, so that we can really get curious, like, okay, what's happening with my child? Because this is one of my biggest like shifts and what I'm doing differently. I'm not claiming to be a parenting expert. I don't give scripts and like step prescriptions to my clients what to do in these situations, because there might be a different thing for you to do if you're running late on a Monday morning after your kids had like a crazy weekend and they were staying late and they were on holidays last week and now it's the first day back to school, or on a Friday morning because they're already exhausted from the whole week and maybe something happens with their friends at school last night. Or another morning will be totally different if they didn't sleep because their teeth were growing out, or because they hurt their foot, or because they had some gastro problems like over the night and they didn't sleep. Like it can be, if they are not listening to you, if they are not as fast as you want in the morning, you know what the reason is. Once you're able to stay in that calm adult energy, loving, unconditionally loving, especially, not having your list of conditions, what your kids like are getting triggered if they get up and feeling already like nah, 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 a little bit nagging. And then you start getting like, before you saw them in the morning, you were in a okay, happy mood, or at least like neutral. Okay. The moment you see your child getting up, feeling nah, 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 annoyed, you get annoyed. Like, what the heck, right? You can be the emotional anchor for your family. Because as a mom, sorry, dad, but as a mom biologically, like this is your natural role, like the household energy, the overall emotional mood, really, mom sets it up. And you have seen the proof of that. I'm not telling you something new, right? If you think about it, you are the one who could set the mood. And even if the kids wake up cranky, tired, annoyed, crying because of whatever reason, you can be the emotional anchor to help them calm down, not to become fake positive, sunny, shiny, happy. Like nobody needs that, but at least neutral. You can help bring your kids up again to at least the neutral level, acknowledging, yes, it's okay to have all these emotions, and I get it, you're hurting because whatever, teeth, my daughter just hurt her foot yesterday, so she woke up cranky because of her hurting foot. All emotions are allowed, my dear, for sure. But let mom make it a little bit better and help you get up. Yes, that's the energy, that's the power you have. If only you don't let yourself be pulled off balance and then even flip like for that little girl who feels out of control and then you make it all even worse. Okay? That's the power you have. And those 2 steps that I found out, even with moms who have it much more like serious than me, it works. Because only when you're able to do that, you really become the expert on your kids. Based on what you know is going on with them, you realize what they need. Why are they stalling? Why are they not listening? Why are they not cooperating? What do they need right now? Do they need a lesson? Do they need a hug? Do they need help? Do they need listening ear? Do they need extra 5 minutes? Or maybe do they need more like closer follow-up so that like you can help them, bring them in? Do they need more control? Do they need more space to make their own decisions? Do you need any help in setting these healthy boundaries with natural consequences? No punishments, no positive rewards and sticker charts. Like, that's nonsense. What is the natural way how you can connect with them so that they would want to help? They would want to be on time because that's what they want. This is all about detective work, trying to find out why not, like what's going on with them. How come they don't want to do that naturally? And you can start playing a detective only after you get yourself out of the way. Only after you get that little you out of the way. Only when you get the voices, I'm not good enough, I need to be perfect, what are people going to say? Only when you get that noise out of the way. Then you can go play detective. Find out what's really going on with your kids. And then start being like a curious scientist, checking what would help it. One morning, I'm doing it as a competition between my husband and my daughter. Who's going to put the shoes first? Okay. Another morning, we put on music and have a dance party when everybody wants to lift the mood up. Okay. Then another morning, I'm spending more time just like hugging and cuddling her when she's being sad for a reason that I don't even always know, but I feel like she wants to spend more time in my arms. So I do that upfront because I know the more I can do upfront with her, and I can stop it from escalating and her mood getting even worse and me making it worse by being pushy, then I can diffuse it. And it's worth spending extra 5 minutes when she's still in her bed, waking up, feeling cranky. I'd rather spend 5 minutes here than 20 minutes at the end trying to catch up when already everything blowed up and I'm like, Momzilla yelling, right? You are the best expert on your kids. Once you can clean up your own reactions, your own whatever is going on, you keep being the adult and you become the detective trying to find out what's going on for them, and then being the curious scientist trying to see different things, how they react, and what is the way how we could make it work today. Okay? Makes sense? This is the recipe that has worked for literally hundreds of moms I worked with, me and my team. Thousands of moms who are listening to my free content for years now. And I wanted to nail it down really now, especially for the time pressure, because it's one of the biggest triggers, okay? So for those of you who want to go deeper with this, I wanted to create an invitation and an offer for you. Normally our Zen Supermom program, where we do this and we like take people by hand and do one-on-one sessions with them, because a lot of this, you being able to stop flipping from an adult to a child, like out of control and then yelling out last minute, that requires one-on-one time, because it is related to your childhood and we are not able to just logically think through it and flip it ourselves. It's completely normal that you can't. It doesn't go away even after talk therapy, EMDR, CBT, hypnotherapy, EFT, you name it. There is a specific kind of help that you need, and I talk about that in all of the other podcast episodes, so I'm going to cut it short here. But there's a one-on-one help you need. And that's what we are doing inside the Zen Supermom program. The challenge is that many moms who meet me through the podcast or other channels, they are either too skeptical because it sounds too good to be true, because we help fast. We have a method. I created a method that works fast. But some of them also would love it. They see the value. They trust me because they are listening to this podcast forever. But they don't have the money because the program is not cheap. We are giving a lot of deep support to be able to do it so fast. And they don't have the money because they are single moms, divorced, trying to feed like the whole family out of one part-time salary. So that's why for the first time ever, I decided to create like a mini program. Okay. So that at least we could give them some proof to those who are skeptical, at least some first wins and a proof that it can work for them too. And those who don't have money, give them at least some value so that they can get from the bottom, get from the absolute burnout and frustration, and at least get a first leap up before they save up and are able to join us in the full Zen Supermom program. Okay? So that's for those of you who would want to get further with it. So yes, I'm practically selling on this podcast episode. If you get triggered by it, then too bad. But after 140 episodes of sharing free content, free advice, and hearing like and I love it. Thank you everybody who sent all the positive comments and notes. And I received so many love notes from so many parents telling me like, oh my goodness, this is so good. And for the first time ever, I feel heard and you're putting in words what I've been feeling but not able to express. So you're welcome. And also I would feel like I would do you this service if I didn't mention that now for the first time ever, I actually created a mini program that just like I'm trying whatever I can to make it as available, the help, to as many people as possible, to as many people who want it, who need it. Yeah, because there's only so far I can take you through a podcast because you're just listening, but there's no follow-up. You don't get the accountability in somebody checking on you. You don't get that one-on-one help, which is in part of this mini program, because that's exactly what we are doing inside. You're getting one individual session with one of my coaches to dig deeper in that flip, what happens in that moment when you flip from the adult to being the child and you start yelling totally out of control and then you regret it and feel so guilty for doing it. You need a one-on-one session to be able to work with that. And then part of the mini program is then also like a pre-recorded content where I go and explain even much further in more detail about like what is really going on with those voices in your head. There are exercises, there are assessments so that you would know exactly what the heck is going on and get some practical help and tool how to start turning that around, how to start making yourself feel good enough, how to start resisting to that pressure to do it all, like and feeling like the fear of judgment and everything. You get practical exercises inside, okay? So those are all the things that I cannot do here in the podcast. Like, yes, you can go and try to stitch like a patchwork puzzle pieces here and there and take it from 140 episodes. Good luck trying to get through all of it. So I put it for, especially for moms who don't have time to waste, I put it all in one place, beautifully packaged it, and here it is, I'm offering it to you. Okay? So what we will do, we will link up the page where you can grab the mini program. If you have any questions about it, you can always reach out to wherever you're listening or watching this podcast. And then especially the key contact link is hi@zensupermom.com. You will get that email address as well with this podcast episode so that you can reach out, ask any questions you have. I'm happy to answer it together with my team. They will be helping me. And I hope to see you inside, huh? Because this is really for moms who want to stop this madness. And the time pressure, and you can see it because then you can see also on the reactions of your kids, if this has been going on for a while, you see how they start reacting, how they start feeling stressed out by it, or how they start aggressively pushing back against you. Like, my intention is really to help you stop this guilty, painful madness. What is it the goal that you would want? What is it that would make it worth your time, energy, and money to be able to have like calm mornings, if not like sunny, shiny, happy people kissing and having a dance party every morning? What is it that you would want instead? How would you love your mornings to go, or at any point when you need to run under time pressure? How do you want your kids to respond? Because I bet they want it too. They're not doing it on purpose. They're suffering as much as you are, if not more. Yeah. So If there's a part of you who feels like, oh my goodness, I want to stop wasting my time, I want to get practical tools that work, something that is proven, something that people have tried before and they got the results, then reach out and let's do it together. Okay? Take very good care, Supermom, and I'm going to see you inside. Bye. Why can't you stop yelling at your kids? And no, it's not the stress, lack of sleep, kids not listening, fighting, hitting, no support, time pressure, ADHD, hormones. No, moms around the world are doing it regardless. How? Join us for the upcoming Mommy Tantrum training and find out too.